open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So a little behind the scenes to start the Fast Lane. It was a few months ago, I was at a business of ours, Meineke Car Care, proud partner of Jefferson Forest Cavalier Football, presented by TrostLaw.com. By the way, Central VA Flooring kickoff show, 6:30 p.m. tomorrow from Bedford for JF at Bedford. I know plenty of people will be over at the Jug Bowl for Heritage Glass at City Stadium. More on that venue in just a moment. But I was at Meineke Car Care, and at that time, it was the first time I'd heard about this. This was back at the beginning of the baseball season. Barry, who's the owner of the place, great guy, wonderful individual, often does plenty of functions at my church, St. John's Episcopal Church in Lynchburg. And so Barry and I know each other from church and, have seen each other in professional settings as well. And he mentioned, putting the seed in our minds, hey, you guys should do more with the Lynchburg Hillcats. And I'm like, look, Barry, we've got a great setup at InsaneRadioDeals.com where we trade out tickets and food vouchers for the Hillcats. Although I know some people who just like paying full price. Like, I know it sounds absolutely insane and ridiculous, but apparently they do. They'd rather give more of their money away than not. But hey, it's for a great cause. Hillcats are a great venue, good partner of ours. But here's the funny thing. Barry mentioned he knew about that, and he knew that we had Jason Pearl of the Hillcats on Mondays at 5:45 p.m. in covering the Commonwealth. Although today he's joining us at 5:45 p.m. solo in that time slot to recap the victory in the Carolina League Championship. But Jason, has been a guest of ours for the last couple of years. But Barry brought that up. And I'm like, all right, cool. I know you listen to the Fast Lane. You like to hear more. Thanks for the feedback. All of a sudden, I bumped into other people. Alex, great listener of ours, friend of ours, and friend of mine personally, from the Fast Lane and just outside of the Fast Lane. Although I guess when you're in this business, newsflash, by the way, if you're ever in media, your public life and your private life are going to blend together. If you don't like that, don't get into this racket. Like, that's a whole nother rant for a different time, on especially people on social media. But what you put out there does reflect your personal brand. So get used to it. But Alex was, big Hillcats fan, talked about it a lot, has even chimed in during the playoffs and mentioning that he'd love for us to be the ones doing the road games. We would need, in the immortal words of Kenny Powers, lots and lots and lots of
dollar bills, y'all,
from the opposing teams in the Carolina League to make that happen. Although, good Lord willing, we might be able to do some stuff with the Lynchburg Hillcats next year. That's to be determined. We'll see how that goes. We'd welcome the opportunity as they know. But, the interest started to pick up. So I had more people bring this up about our coverage of the Hillcats. They appreciate it, but they wanted to hear more. So as the playoff run has gone on, obviously we've done more. TJ Wilkerson, who is one of our producers and will be hosting in my place tomorrow as I get ready for JF Cavalier Football presented by TrostLaw.com. TJ regularly talks Hillcats because he is one of their play-by-play or PA announcers over at City Stadium. So TJ often does that. So he's helped increase that. We've added it. We've obviously done our segments Monday with Jason Prill. And as that's gone on, I've been amazed, maybe just because of the perception of minor league baseball. And I don't think this is an incorrect perception on a broader level. And I still think there's some truth to this to a lot of people who attend Hillcats games in the Hill City. I still think it is more people that go to the game because they love the environment, the family-friendly atmosphere, and the way they put together a game. But there are a lot of people that also not only go for those great reasons, but also go because they genuinely have an interest in what the Hillcats do as far as the product on the field. And maybe this is the adaptation of sports fans. Maybe it's the direction that you're going to go in college, where you're rooting for the coach, you're rooting for the program, but you're just keenly aware that there's a transient nature to the players that are around. And yet, in spite of that, that only adds to I think on a local level, the mystique of what the Hillcats did last night, knocking off the Columbia Fireflies to win the Carolina League Championship. And a lot of it is the fact that when the Hillcats got to the point of the final out, there's a lot that actually went into that from the game and a broader level.
First and second, 2 down. Jose Cerisek grounds it over toward third. Maharis charges, collision, and they tag him! He's out! He's out! Bye-bye, Fireflies! For the first time since 2017, the Hillcats are the Carolina League champions! Segra Park is livid. The Hillcats are your champions once again.
And what's amazing about that call at the very end of the game for the Lynchburg Hillcats, Carolina League had that broadcast, and obviously, what they put together with the Fireflies and the Hillcats who collaborated on those has been fantastic. First of all, the tag out at the end. No word on whether or not the third baseman for the Hillcats uttered this infamous line from Kenny Powers. Do you know what that is, by the way, Luke? You're acting like you're familiar with it.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
How do I say this? As somebody who grew up as a homeschooler, and I don't know if your parents fall under the protect your child's innocence umbrella, but if they do, they would not approve of it. But if you want to access some of your worldly, again, take it with a grain of salt. Do not engage in any of the behavior that unfolds from Danny McBride. But if you want just humor and you can put it in context and realize this is not the faith-based lifestyle to which we should be aspiring, but we all have our moments of, oh my goodness, this is so ridiculous, I just can't help myself. This is that type of humor from Kenny Powers. And yes, he goes on a much more expletive-filled rant, as we mentioned. But the Lynchburg Hillcats and the tag out and the passion with which they played, honestly, it kind of embodies a couple of different things. One of which is the Hillcats as a program and as a team this past year. And the fact that a lot of the fans to the Hillcats genuinely do embrace the way this team has fought hard, they performed under pressure, and really do want them to win games, not just provide an entertaining atmosphere at City Stadium. So it's a fascinating part to it. And on a micro level, I mean, looking at last night's game, I did a TrostLaw.com fast take from City Stadium earlier today about this. But it was almost like, by the way, another Netflix show coming in. And trust me, I do not know a lot of shows. I've only got like a select handful, as you probably noticed from the sound bites we play in the fast lane. Like there's probably like 10 shows and movies combined to which I can use those quotes outside of the world of sports. But Cobra Kai, you familiar with that show, by the way?
Familiar with it, haven't seen it.
Totally okay. I don't judge people for it. There's so many options nowadays. We're appreciative of everybody who chooses us, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, VTR and Sports, Facebook Live, YouTube, and of course the VTR and Sports app, as well as 93.3 FM. But there are all sorts of options that are out there. So everybody's got those. And the Lynchburg Hillcats provide that from an entertainment standpoint. But yes, they kind of embodied, everyone calls them the Cardiac Cats. And I understand that. There's a lot of meaning to the Cardiac Cats. But last night, for one night at least, they were more like the Cobra Kai Cats. Strike first. 2-run homer, Riley Nelson, top of the first inning, which, as Jordan Smith, the manager, mentioned afterwards, was a crucial point.
Riley's been a huge piece of our lineup, hitting 2-hole all year, but he's just one of those guys with that swing of the bat. It really propelled, and then Melkis was able to settle in a little bit after that, but Riley's been a clutch piece, and that was really got us going.
And he was talking about Jordan Smith, the manager for the Hillcats, about Melkis Cabrera, the starting pitcher, and then Will McCausland, who came on in relief in that dicey fourth inning. But strike first, that was what they did with Riley Nelson's home run. Strike hard when it looked like the Fireflies were going to put together a rally, 1 out, bases loaded, fourth inning. McCausland comes in, strikes out both batters. Who knows if he uttered, as Kenny Powers would have wanted him to do. But that was a turning point moment and a strike hard part for the Hillcats.
I mean, he was huge. He was so composed and in the zone, and he was fine on pitches. So it was just one of those where, like, hey, he's got the hot hand. Why are we going to, force an issue? And we just continued to roll with them until we got tight on pitches, and then we moved on to Schulke, who's been just as steady all season.
And the Hillcats had that progression of pitching. We can give a lot of credit to the manager, Jordan Smith. If you can pull this type of thing off, winning a championship in the minor leagues, it really does take a lot, because as you start to have success over the course of the season, and the Hillcats did, winning the Carolina League crown in the first half, your roster is going to get poached. It's not like college football where other programs poach it. It's in professional, organized settings. But the Cleveland Guardians are going to poach it because they're going to move guys up and down the farm system based upon what they believe is necessary for their development and to have them in the right position to either make it to the show for themselves or be used as trade pieces. And for a Guardians organization that, generally speaking, has not done a lot of, let's send a lot of prospects out to acquire talent, there's much more of a, we need to replenish our ranks internally, which is part of what made the challenge as big as it is and impressive from Jordan Smith, the justified Carolina League Manager of the Year. But strike first, Riley Nelson's home run. Strike hard when threatened in the 4th inning, and then no mercy, tacking on some insurance runs in the 9th.
Yeah, that's huge. When you can get runs in the 9th and get a little insurance there, that was huge. It allowed Schulke to relax. I mean, we had 2 runners on in the 9th, and with a 2-run lead prior to that, it would have been very stressful. So it changed the entire outcome of the 9th and what we were able to do to them.
And for the Hillcats, it did. I mean, they're 2 on, but it's an 8-2 game. So even if both of those runners came in, the Hillcats were firmly in control in the bottom of the 9th when they got that final out on a tag out. But there were sparks that flew in that game. Benches cleared, no punches were thrown, but you could see the intensity. And that's not always the case in minor league baseball, but it's refreshing. And frankly, it's something that endeared the Hillcats to their fans in the greater Lynchburg area and made them a product that it's always worth watching minor league baseball, I think, from a just raw, take the family out, enjoy some entertainment, watch them play a sport, but then the vested interest in the win-loss outcome, which is not normal for minor league baseball across the country. It was there and became developed from the Lynchburg Hillcats. Meanwhile, speaking of developing, you need a plan that's developed and customized to you if you're in an auto accident. Unlike that collision that resulted in the final out for the Lynchburg Hillcats, you don't want to be involved in a collision if you're in an automobile. But unfortunately, those things arise. Maybe it's the insurance company giving you the runaround. Maybe it's somebody else that's created a problem. Somebody that can be a solution for you. The team at Trost Law. 777-HURT. That's 777-HURT and TrostLaw.com. Trusted professionals for
not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
A little over 4 decades since 1982. Your friends and ours at TrostLaw.com. Meanwhile, once again, we're going to get into the weeds. This time more on an offensive line play as it relates to Virginia, how well they've done up front, and Liberty, a key point of emphasis to correct if they want to have a chance to get a victory against JMU this weekend.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
So offensive line play is not sexy, but it's more important now than it's ever been in college football. And it's frankly harder to attain that. There are reports that Xavier Chaplin, the left tackle who left Virginia Tech for Auburn this past offseason, got $1.7 to $1.8 million for 1 year, which relative to what he'll be getting on his rookie contract if he's a first or a second round pick in the NFL, it's not much. But relative to the college environment, it gives you an idea of what it takes to obtain and retain quality offensive line play. And if there's ever an example of that, the Virginia Cavaliers, who have done as good of a job as they have with the left tackle, projected starter Monroe Mills, out for the year with a torn ACL. With Monroe, the projected right tackle starter from the beginning of the year, out until at least the midpoint of this season. If not, the potential that he's out the entire year and might have to use a medical red shirt for an extra year of eligibility. The NCAA might try to deny it. They'll get challenged. They'll go to court. They won't have great lawyers like TrostLaw.com, so they'll be losing in that particular situation. Although we actually want a litigation expert. If you are one, we can certainly promote your brand because Trost is much more for personal injuries. Although the NCAA might be suffering personal injuries because it seems like they're getting injured, at least their pride, all the time. But the Virginia Cavaliers, what they've accrued on the offensive line speaks first and foremost, let's keep it real here,
Dollar bills, y'all.
a financial investment. But there's also the fact that now that they put that money there, they are getting results. And when you lose 2 projected offensive linemen and still can pick up the slack, there is a level of credit that does need to be given to O-line coach Terry Heffernan. And granted, again, take it with a shaker of salt. Not a grain, but a shaker. Coastal Carolina and William & Mary are 2 of the first 3 opponents. But NC State is notorious for having a very good defensive line. Virginia did not allow a sack to them either. Stanford, I know they've been picked apart. Bailey, the defensive end, got bought by Texas Tech when they had the coaching change in the offseason. But this is all stuff for Virginia that, even in spite of that, it's really hard to go through a 3-game stretch to not allow a sack. And that's where Tony Elliott, I think, is justified in the praise he's heaped on Terry Heffernan, the offensive line coach.
First, I think Coach Heffernan does a phenomenal job. And I float around throughout the course of the week, but I also find myself spending a lot of time just going into the offensive line meeting room just because I love the way that he teaches the guys, both technically and schematically. And those guys understand that it's a fist. It's 5 as 1, right? Five is strong together. And so, and it doesn't matter who's in there. And I think they believe in the quarterbacks, that they have. They understand that the quarterback is the program. We got to protect the program at all costs. And so it's just been awesome to see that everybody is straining to uphold that standard when they're put in the game.
I mean, I get it. Again, two things can be true, or multiple truths can exist at once. We at least believe that in the fast lane. Virginia can benefit financially from what they've invested in their overall football program, but properly identifying that the offensive line is an area where you don't just want some bodies, but you want a lot of depth, and the Cavaliers have gone out and acquired, accrued, and developed that. Also, schedule has benefited them in the early portion of the year. However, you can also mention that it's really hard in spite of that to guarantee you're going to have an offensive line. So they're in a unique spot, Virginia happened to be, with what they've done, because other programs do invest in the offensive line, and whether it's injuries or whether it's underperformance, getting them on the same page, it still takes the right coach to get them on the same page, but also the right scheme to understand how to properly utilize that. And Virginia, they deserve a lot of credit for that. Meanwhile, it's clear that's the bugaboo for the Liberty Flames. Like, there are a lot of areas in which the Flames have been challenged this season, one of which is the offensive line. And there's been a lot of question, I think it's justified, pointing out the fact that the Liberty offense, penalties and turnovers have doomed them. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. They've underachieved at 1-2 this year, and it could be 1-4 if they don't get together against JMU this weekend, and if Liberty can't find a way to knock off Old Dominion on the road the following weekend. But the offensive line play's got to get better. And finding depth, getting them coached up, it's not as easy as you would think, as Jamie Chadwell alluded to when he spoke with the media earlier this week and pressed about why not switching offensive linemen, given that there have been a lot of underperformance spots.
Those are the five that we felt like gave us the best chance to win. In the way that maybe we're performing. And so, our best players need to play the best. They're not quite doing that right now. And so you're trying to find the best five up there. And we felt like those are the best five that gives us the chance, with the way, our guys are playing currently. Our
best players need to play the best. People could talk about it being totally denigrating. I think there's a level of complimentary in there in its selling belief, which is you're the best players. We're leaving you out there because we believe there's enough talent there. But you can't keep doing it forever if you keep underperforming. And that's kind of where the Liberty Flames happen to be. You've got to get to that point where you can have enough faith and trust in the product that you see to deliver for the Flames. And that's been a concern, and why, as Jamie Chadwell added on, this O-line play's got to improve if the Flames are going to get better offensively.
Some of those are, you wish that those guys would just do what they're coached to do more consistently. They're fighting. They're trying to do well. But we got to play better there. We have to, and we've not been able to we've had spurts of running the football. We get some big plays, and then it seems like there's a penalty down the field, like a receiver just has his hands outside instead of inside. So little detailed things are hurting us from having some explosive plays. And if you're going to score points, you got to have explosive plays. And so I think it's an overall offense. Everybody's got to do their job. We had chances in a lot of ways if people just did their job to put more points on the board. So, but it starts up front.
It does. It starts up front. I mean, you can point to Ethan Vasco. I don't think he's absolved of guilt. And I think if they underperform, his play's got to be scrutinized as well. But the whole offense as a unit really has to. And that's been the weakest point for the Flames. The defense has had its issues, but some of that is compounded over the course of the game when the offense has just not gotten on track in all three games, or they've moved the ball, but self-inflicted mistakes have doomed them, which as a 1-2 team to have outgained your opponent in all three games, that's an indicator you're shooting yourself in the foot when you don't need to. Meanwhile, speaking of the Liberty Flames, more on them right now in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
So people were naturally wondering when this Battle of the Blue Ridge Trophy for JMU and Liberty, the winner of that game, when it will be on display and when we'll even get a look at it. I mean, I don't know if it'll look great or if it's going to look absolutely absurd, but we're going to get our first look at it at the Flames Fan Fest in the indoor practice facility, where fans can also take photos with the trophy before Saturday's game. It's sold out, but you can still get tickets as part of that season ticket package at InsaneRadioDeals.com. By the way, a little birdie has said that blue light special that ends tonight might even be extended to tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. But no, I'm curious to see what this looks like. It's going to be moved as the game progresses, eventually in the fourth quarter, to the sideline of the team that is leading at that moment. I hope it's just stuck in the middle zone, which is where the Liberty Indoor Practice Facility, it leads to the practice facility and the Liberty locker room, that area on the, I guess it's the north end zone, whatever. The left, if you see it on television screen, the left side end zone for Liberty, where, no, not where the cabanas are, but the other side. So I'm curious for Liberty how that's going to go. There will not be any formal presentation of this trophy, which, I mean, again, it's a regular season game with not really any conference title implications, and it's not a firmly established rivalry. But I like how Liberty and JMU are both leaning into this and taking steps to embrace the fact that this can be a real fun thing. Speaking of fun or not,
Number 4.
in a move that pleased many in college football yesterday, the NCAA has agreed to discard the spring transfer portal window. That yell you might have heard came from the Liberty football facility as they lost defensive tackle Jay Hardy and defensive end TJ Bush in the offseason to that spring transfer portal window. The period now is slated to be, although it's flexible and might get moved, January 2nd through 11th. And the narrow slot is hoped to lead to less chaos. If you're going to make it a short window, I mean, I get people talk about the academic calendar. Who are we kidding here? Let's keep it real here. A lot of these guys who are transferring are not transferring for academic motives. They're transferring for
dollar bills.
And I
y'all.
don't begrudge them for that, but if you're going to make a more realistic scenario, start the transfer portal window on January 20th and run it through the end of the month at the end of the calendar. Some schools have January terms, so it's not an issue. Others do not. But then if it becomes a real cumbersome issue with eligibility at certain programs, here's another concept if guys want to stick around. You can have lighter load in the spring. You can have summer school courses. And in the fall, you can take regular courses. And oh, by the way, if you want to add into this transfer portal window, another idea, make that week 0 slate, but the weekend before Labor Day, the start of the college football season, you can move up the end of the regular season. You can jerry-rig this calendar so that it's not an issue. Is this a step in the right direction? One transfer portal window in January? Absolutely. But is there room to improve it? Most definitely there is. Meanwhile, speaking of room to improve,
Number 3.
Virginia Tech, they obviously have room to improve their next football coach. Mike Jones of The Athletic mentioned that it's going to be interesting what happens, and he is told, I wonder by whom, that former Virginia Tech cornerback D'Angelo Hall has strong interest in that vacancy at Virginia Tech. He does have coaching experience, by the way. Carolina considered him for their defensive coordinator position. He's coached DBs in Carolina. He's also coached for the 49ers this past offseason. But here's the thing. There's very little experience coaching, even at a coordinator level, much less a head coaching position. If you think Mike Vick is too green 3 games into his green Norfolk State Spartan career, I'm on board with that. D'Angelo Hall, would he be a good fit for a defensive coordinator? Perhaps, depending on the new coach. Would he be a good fit for a general manager role? Maybe, although I think there are better options for Virginia Tech, including one that was leaked earlier today. More on that in a moment. These are all positives, but for D'Angelo Hall, a coach, yes. A GM, yes. But the head coach at Virginia Tech, that's where I draw the line.
Number 2.
Meanwhile, speaking of Virginia Tech, there's one interesting name for this GM position that's been opened up, and that is Jeff King, who is from Virginia, played for Virginia Tech, spent time in the Carolina Panthers, and now has worked in back office, front office roles in the NFL. I love that concept. If you're going to bring a general manager in, a former player or a former coach, bring somebody in with enough professional experience to know how this thing operates. That's going to give you a leg up. Does it mean King should be the only candidate? No. There should be others that are vetted. But does it mean he's worthy of consideration? Most definitely.
Number 1.
Speaking of 2 things involving the Washington Commanders,
Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we?
the good and the bad. We're rolling it into number 1 in the Fast 5 at 5-ish. The good, the DC Council in an 11-2 vote gave the second and final approval for the $3.8 billion project, which includes the 65,000-seat stadium on the old RFK Stadium site to be completed by 2030, plus a massive mixed-use development in the surrounding area. If you're familiar with that area, it's kind of a grimy area. It could use a mixed-use development to boost it. So that's the good news if you're pro-development, although I have my issues with publicly funded stadiums, and this will partially be that. The not as good news for Commanders fans
Number 1.
is the second straight day that Jaden Daniels is not practicing. It is trending towards Marcus Mariota being the starter Sunday against the Vegas Raiders. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, it is trending towards Dalton Hopkins to talk some NASCAR from frontstretch.com. Then Back to the battle of the Blue Ridge plus the Hillcats championship for the Carolina League with Jason Pearl around 5:45. This is the Fast Lane, VTR and Sports app, and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTR and Sports.
The Drive into Fall sales event is on at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford. Looking for financing as low as 0%? It's yours when you drive home in a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee with 3-row seating, or choose a brand new 2025 Ram 1500 and get 0% financing for 72 months. Huge savings are here at the Drive into Fall sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, 1750 Independence Boulevard, MagicCityBedford.com. Live credits dealer for details. Ends 9/30/25.
You're seriously considering buying investment property, but you're unsure of all the steps. That's where we come in at Brownstone Properties. We're navigating different home investment journeys daily, just as we've done for decades. From buying with one of our licensed realtors to a full-service property management after the purchase, Brownstone Properties will walk with you step by step on your real estate investment journey. For a free initial consultation, call or visit us online today at brownstoneproperties.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from someplace like ESPN.com or even worse, the newspaper? You're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Visit TechSideline.com and subscribe today.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
We can give a salute to our next guest because he's the captain, Dalton Hopkins of FrontStretch.com. With us in the Fast Lane. Dalton, welcome back into the Fast Lane. NASCAR playoff talk as we are on to round 2 in the Granite State of New Hampshire this coming weekend. First of all, grade our salute in how bad it was or was not.
Yeah, so it's got to be a little bit more straight. Your middle finger is supposed to barely touch your right eyebrow, just barely graze it. That's where it's supposed to be. And your arm's supposed to be at a 45-degree angle. You have to tuck your thumb in as well. If you're wearing a head cap or headgear, it touches the bill of your headgear. So that is the basis of my drill and ceremony knowledge for the salute for the salute position.
So I guess you're politely saying I get an in for needs improvement right now.
Look, you did it with the right arm. A lot of people do it with the wrong arm, so I'll give you credit there.
Hey, I'll take all the brownie points I can get from Dalton Hopkins of FrontStretch.com. Dalton, we are into the chase now. We have gone from 16 to 12 drivers with a chance to compete. Does this increase your... I know NASCAR fans bemoan the concept of the chase, but are you more interested now knowing that we've gotten out of the way a lot of drivers that people realistically did not think could even get to the round of 8?
Yeah, I think nowadays we're in a period of the sport where it's so equal that even some of the guys that got eliminated aren't really that far-fetched to make it a little bit farther. Alex Bowman, I thought, was kind of a big surprise. I don't think a lot of people had him being eliminated in the first round. But yeah, I mean, the cream is rising to the crop here. It's not like we dropped a lot of guys that I think people were picking to win a championship, at least not reasonable people. So, and I don't think this round's going to be that much different. Still think we got some guys that are, you kind of wonder, like, you can just say, I don't see them making to the Final Four. I don't see them making the round of 8. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I think we cut the fat off the meat there. That's a really poor way of saying that. That sounds like so negative, but that's kind of what the playoffs are. When you have 16 drivers in the playoff field, yeah, you gotta cut the fat off.
I mean, there are all sorts of ways to dissect the NASCAR playoff format itself and overall, and we can get to that in just a moment. One of them being Alex Bowman's dismissal. Is his seat getting hotter and hotter and hotter, particularly, and I don't know how reasonable the possibility is. I don't know if anybody can predict how the courts are going to rule or if there would ever be a settlement in this Michael Jordan 2311 versus NASCAR lawsuit, but the potential for them not to be guaranteed a charter, is that seat really heating up for Alex Bowman at Hendrick Motorsports?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like we talk about this every year, and personally, I mean, on a personal note, I don't really see a reason why Alex Bowman should be dismissed. I don't think he has performed in a way that justifies being let go from Hendrick Motorsports. Look, you have a team like Hendrick Motorsports. You got William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson. That's tough competition when those guys are your teammates. I mean, those guys are phenoms in their own right. And when they're your teammates and, oh, no, you can't, and you're just Alex Bowman and you can't compete with them, like, there's 4 cars in that team. Somebody's going to be the weakest link. And unfortunately, it is Alex Bowman, but that doesn't mean he's performed poorly. Now, like you said, the 2311 deal, yeah, that's tough. That's tough because I don't know if Hendrick's going to jump on getting rid of a guy who's been loyal, who's been with that team for so long and has been actually pretty successful up to this point because a talent just got let go or a talent just got dropped at Toyota. So I don't think Alex is going to be as much in the hot seat as he has been in recent years. Give it another year, though, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, with the especially the prediction that 2026, the NASCAR free agency silly season could be much more dicey when it gets to that point, that's maybe when you're going to really see a lot of shakeups that we haven't seen this year. Pit Lane CPD, Twitter, Dalton Hopkins, frontstretch.com, ways to connect with him as he's with us here in the Fast Lane. Dalton, after that little detour, back to the chase itself in just a moment. Big picture on the chase. Is that the reason NASCAR's TV ratings have slumped a little bit? I know you guys discussed this on the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast earlier this week. Is it the chase and the people have a disdain for it? Is it the lack of really any star driver asserting itself this year? Or is it the fact that, frankly, a lot of ratings are down for almost every sport except for the seemingly ratings-proof NFL?
I think that last one right there pretty much hit the nail on the head. I'm a very optimistic person. I mean, there's no doubt that ratings have definitely plummeted, but you look at Bristol's ratings and yeah, that did not look good, but keep in mind that was a Saturday night race and a lot of people, there was a lot of Saturday night, most Saturday night races have done very, very poorly in recent years. And not to mention you're competing with college football that's going on at the same time. I mean, at the Bristol Media Center, we had the Georgia-Tennessee game on until the beginning of the race. I mean, everyone was glued to it too. So that kind of goes to show, like, yes, even we are watching college football at times. It is tough to say whether or not it's because of the playoffs, because I personally I think if we didn't have the playoffs, things would be worse. I feel like the ratings would actually be a lot worse than what they are. Some people are going to disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But think about it. Like if we were to go into a 36 race long format like we used to, and then we had a driver win 3 races before the end of the year, people are going to tune out. It just happens. And it's been proven in Formula One. It's been proven in IndyCar. It does happen. So there is a reason we have these playoffs. Now, can we tweak it a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some changes that can be made. And like you said, Ed, we talked about that on our Happy Hour podcast. So, yeah, the ratings are down mostly because I think they're just down everywhere. But NASCAR is definitely not helping themselves by having Saturday night races in the playoffs as well.
Well, I mean, could that go to a bigger picture that NASCAR is going to be swimming upstream as is anybody, because it used to be the NFL, and certainly their rating strength is very strong. We see the metrics for people who listen to our NFL triple headers every Sunday on the VTR and Sports app, and have seen strength in college football as well on the VTR and Sports app. So we see it. That's part of the reason why we carry as many games as we do here at VTR and Sports. I know I'm promoting ourselves, Dalton, but I'm also kind of providing an insight that is this almost the point where we're a football crazy society, and if you're going head to head with it, you're probably going to suffer a ratings dip. And the only way around that, and NASCAR will never do this, would be to just truncate the season at Labor Day and end it right there.
Yeah, like you said, that's never going to happen. I think you kind of have to just you got to bite the bullet. You got to deal with the fact that you are going to compete with the NFL on Sundays when you're a Sunday sport. And if you're racing on Saturday, you got to deal with college football, which is almost just as bad. So yeah, I mean, it's really, what can you do, right? There's really not much you can really do about that. Or, I mean, on the other end, you could have a race at like 10 in the morning, like Formula One does. I mean, they're kind of forced to do that, but look, I don't like waking up at 8 in the morning on a Sunday morning. I don't like doing that. So if I can help it, so let's keep away from that. I'm okay with the afternoon races, but and there's also like a whole other aspect that I failed to mention. I probably should mention it. It's also the fact that this season just hasn't really been all that great. There hasn't been a whole lot of highlights. I mean, look at last year. We had a 3-wide thrilling finish at Atlanta. We had the closest finish in NASCAR history, and all these a fight at North Wilkesboro between Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse. And this year we haven't really had a whole lot of those highlights that draws people in. So I think this world is very media based. What you see on social media is going to attract you. And if you see Ross Chastain do the Hail Melon, you're like, what the hell is this? And you're going to tune in. You're going to tune in next week and see what's going on. So you see Kyle Busch right hooking Ricky Stenhouse, you're going to tune in. Like, that's what happens. We haven't really had those social media viral moments this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a ton of that. And, ultimately, there's also the car and the conundrum with that, which leads us back to Bristol. I'm fully on board with this idea. There's a segment of people out there. It's not, people think it's NASCAR fans. It's just in the world and society. They're always going to find something to complain about. They're like the opposite of you and me, Dalton. They're miserable people all the time. We're very pleasant, fun, wonderful to be around. They are the opposite of us. And do we need to turn those people out? Because you complained about Bristol where Kyle Larson leads 85% of the race, and you're getting to the point where the only time he's not leading is pitting. Versus this race where I get it doesn't have the traditional passing. I want that to change as much as the next NASCAR fan does. But if not, at least manufacturing excitement with tires, is that not better than the alternative of drivers just leading 95% of the race and it turning into a clunker every weekend?
I wrote about this in my weekly column, Thinking Out Loud. This past Sunday, the title was the happy return of the PP tire, because that's what I call it, based off of what Denny Hamlin said about it in 2024, saying that somebody PP'd in the rubber compound. But I made my opinion on this and that. Is it a little gimmicky? Yes. Who cares? Because it's like you said, Ed, it's way better than another dirty air bubble race where people can't pass. It doesn't matter to me. I want to see a race. People have been screaming all this time that we need to have a car that challenges the driver, that we see the cream rise to the top. We see the best drivers showcase their talent, be able to save their tires, to save their equipment. We see these genius crew chiefs who went to college, who have masters in engineering degrees, and they need to be able to manage the tires as well, when to take tires, when to save them, so on and so forth. This tire makes them do that. And the next gen car, without it, you said it, Ed. I mean, we saw Kyle Larson, I think it was 420 laps in last year in the spring this year. Like, it's mind-boggling to me that people can sit there and look at that and be like, I still don't like this. I don't understand, because it's an improvement. It's better. Is it natural? Is it absolutely pure racing? No. And look, I maybe there's an argument to that, but I need you all to get that out of your head. We are so far away from pure racing. You want pure racing? Go watch a NASCAR race from the 1970s when drivers were buying cars out of the lot on Sunday or on Saturday night and taking them to the track on Sunday morning. It doesn't work that way.
My man, Dalton Hopkins, speaking some truth to people who need a reset, or as my dad likes to say, and I know I rip on him at times, my dad deserves a lot of credit for this one. He came up with the phrase, you need an attitude adjustment, young man, which is appropriate, Dalton, because I am now using that with my kids. Meanwhile, attitude adjustment. Can the field adjust their own attitude, or is this going to be Joe Gibbs Racing literally dominating their way from start, as they've done the first 3 races, through the finish of this NASCAR chase?
Yeah, I was doing my preparation before this show, and I was looking at the next few races, and it doesn't look good for the rest of the field. We're going to New Hampshire, which Joe Gibbs has won all 3 races of the next-gen car at so far. They're 3 for 3. And Chevrolet hasn't won there since 2016. So It's going to be difficult. It's a tall order for anybody to really beat a guy like a team like Joe Gibbs. I mean, I think Hamlin's going to be fast this weekend. Of course he is. Christopher Bell's going to be fast this weekend. I think Chase Briscoe, with the help of James Small, is going to be fast this weekend. It's going to be tough to beat those guys. Even Ty Gibbs, who's had probably what was his best race of his career, is going to be tough to beat. Maybe he's going to be up there in the front at New Hampshire. And again, the rumors are that we have another tire that might wear out as much as it did last week, might wear out as much as it did at Richmond. So we'll see, but I think it's going to be tough. And then you look at Kansas, another Toyota-based track. 2311 has been very strong there in the past. Joe Gibbs has been very strong there in the past. Denny Hamlin won there recently. I mean, it is a tall order for some of these teams to beat that. And then you go to the Roval, and again, Christopher Bell won there recently as well. So for this round at least, I don't think it'll last the entire 10 races. But for this round, at least, I'm expecting Joe Gibbs to have a very strong next 3 weeks.
Well, may that come to fruition, not just for Ty Gibbs, but for my selfish 28-1 Chase Briscoe to win the championship ticket that I may or may not be holding. I would love for it to happen, but knowing my luck, it'll just be Bell, Hamlin dominating. The other two will experience bad luck, and I'll be just cast with a spell going forward. Meanwhile, casting knowledge is Dalton Hopkins from frontstretch.com. He's part of the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast. He does his thinking out loud pieces after the race as well. And he's at Pit Lane CPT. Dalton, always good to connect. Thank you for your time today in the fast lane. And yes, we will do it again soon.
Keep working on that salute, Ed. It's a pleasure as always. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. And I will take all the encouragement Dalton cares to give here in the fast lane. When we return, we pivot off of NASCAR. We will shift over to the Lynchburg Hillcats Carolina League Championship, and we'll touch on the Liberty Flames date with JMU. That when we return. This is the Fast Lane, VTRN Sports app, and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Service and selection. Your search stops here with over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, plus a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking at unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos. Want to save money for feeling old? There's only one place you can pull that off. InsaneRadioDeals.com. In honor of Kmart's Blue Light Special, which began in 1965, RIP to Kmart, head to InsaneRadioDeals.com now to get 65% off the list price of select items. That includes Star City Half Marathon and 10K entries, plus other great items. Just enter the promo code Blue Light at checkout now through Thursday to get 65% off the list price of select items at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I mean, look, I know what the term for the Lynchburg Hillcats is. Manager Jordan Smith was asked after their Carolina League Championship yesterday about the term cardiac cats.
The underlying is just like we want to force teams to play at our speed. We just want to force the issue on them. We want to play the game the right way. We want to play the game fast and hard and hustle at every play and never take anything for granted, and just continue to just play our game and see if the other team can keep up.
And that has been a key for the Lynchburg Hillcats' success. But as we detailed on our TrostLaw.com Fast Take and may get picked apart by Jason Prill, who's the Lynchburg Hillcats broadcaster, joining us now in the Fast Lane, we call them the Cobra Kai Cats for their championship, an ode of that great cheesy Netflix show. Strike first, Riley Nelson's home run in the first inning, 2-run shot. Strike hard when they are threatened in the fourth inning with Will McCausland with the 2 strikeouts to get out of the inning. And no mercy at the end with the insurance runs to create that cushion, which helped the Hillcats win the championship. So, can multiple truths exist? Does one take precedent over the other? Jason Prill is here to help settle the score with us today in the Fast Lane. Jason, always great to catch up with you. Really excited to have an even longer chat with you after the championship last night. Are we off base that the Cobra Kai Cats might at least be appropriate for one night to go along with the Cardiac Cats?
Yeah, Ed, I think that it does fit really well for what we saw last night. I'm not going to I have an affinity toward the Cardiac Cats because we've been using it all season. I know the coaching staff and the team have embraced it as kind of a rallying cry. But last night, I think it was a little bit of the Cobra Kai Cats, just seeing how quickly they started out. I mean, jumping out to a 4-0 lead in the first 3 innings. And then they got pushed around a little bit in the bottom of the 4th inning. They bring out Will McCausland, who is probably going to go down as the unsung hero of this championship team. I mean, a guy coming out of the bullpen essentially wins you the game in the biggest game of the season for the Hillcats and probably in recent memory for the organization. So you bring him out, he slams the door shut for almost 4 full innings. And then you tack on those insurance runs late after getting knocked around a little bit in the bottom of the 8th inning after giving up a solo home run, responding back quickly and eliminating any hope for the Fireflies. I think you're right, Ed. I think there's a little bit of Cobra Kai in them.
Yeah, I'm glad to get the confirmation bias, but I'm glad we detailed a compelling enough case that they embodied that. But overall, it's been the Cardiac Cats throughout the season, and Jordan Smith detailed it. You mentioned the unsung hero being Will McCausland and what he did in that 4th inning to really shut down the Fireflies rally. How important was that particular moment, getting 2 strikeouts in that key moment to set the tone for the Hillcats the rest of the way and really steady the ship after they had the early lead, but you knew the Fireflies were going to punch back, although we didn't mean the literal sense in the 9th inning, just the figurative sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was game-changing, and that's probably a cliche that gets used over and over and over again, but when you look back at what happened on Tuesday night in the 5th and 6th innings, where Lynchburg gave up 13 runs over the course of 2 innings because they couldn't throw strikes. They walked too many guys. They loaded up the bases a couple times, and Columbia just was able to capitalize. And with 1 out, you just walked in a run with the bases loaded. You bring in Will McCausland. Everybody in the ballpark who is a Hillcat fan and even a Firefly fan is thinking, oh, great. Here we go again. It's about to happen. Lynchburg's going to blow it. They're going to walk a couple guys in. They're going to tie this thing up, and all of a sudden the game's going to flip on its head. Well, Will McCausland had a different idea in mind, striking out the next 2 batters. And then from there, he just continued to dominate. He was not frazzled by the moment. He was not scared by the stage. And that comes from pitching in the SEC. He was at Ole Miss. He's had high leverage situations, big games, SEC tournament, and not taking anything away from the Carolina League. But the SEC tournament's probably the biggest tournament in baseball outside of MLB's postseason, just with what's at stake, the passion, the energy. It's really hard to compare it to the minor league stage at any level, even AAA. And so I really think that he was built well for what we saw last night, and him coming out there just to steady the ship and get things back on track. I know Melquise Hernandez, who started the game last night, he was overly appreciative of McCausland. He was the first one out of the dugout to greet him. But McCausland, without him, Lynchburg doesn't win the championship. And it's as simple as that. Even going back to game 1 in the 10th inning, when he picked off the ghost runner at second to open up the inning before firing a pitch, that won them game 1. He won them game 3 as well. In my personal opinion, he's the MVP of the championship series.
So you mentioned Melquise Cabrera, and I mean, there's some bigger picture takeaways, but how much is this a testament to the deserved Carolina League Manager of the Year, Jordan Smith, in the sense that creating an environment where even though you get pulled and you're kind of shaky and on the ropes in the championship game, you're rooting for your teammate as opposed to being down in the dumps in the championship spot?
Yeah, and we talked with Jordan Smith after the game, just pretty much about that, both with minor league baseball, who he had an interview with after the game, and then even in the interview I conducted with him for the local media. And he made mention, it all stems from faith. He talked about just how 25 guys attend the weekly chapel service and how that just built a bond amongst this team, a unity amongst this team. And even for those who don't believe in that, don't agree with that, they were still brought into the fold and still welcomed and still treated as brothers. And there was just a sense of brotherhood that I have not seen in my 4 years in minor league baseball. And when you think about it, there's so many guys coming in and out of the locker room all season long. Guys are getting called up, guys are getting sent down, cut, et cetera, et cetera. And you need something to bond you. You need something to unite you. And for the Hillcats, it was their faith. It was the fact that they could take all the pressure off because knowing that the battle had already been won. And that's the rallying cry, even beyond Cardiac Cats, that they ascribe to. And so for them, that's what built up everything that happened, not just last night, but all season long. And it's what allows a guy like Melquise Hernandez to, in those moments, be cheering for his teammates instead of frustrated over the fact that he left the bases loaded in the fourth inning of a crucial game. He was able to stay in it. He was able to pull for his brother because this has been a brotherhood that's been developing regardless of who's coming in and out of the locker room from day one.
Jason Prill, play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats, is with us in the Fast Lane. Jason, we've talked a lot about the Hillcats. It's been an awesome ride, and we love being able to connect with you and have Mondays in the Fast Lane throughout this baseball season, which came to an end, unfortunately, but the fortunate part for the Hillcats is they get a Carolina League championship. We want to pivot away from that, though, for a moment. You also are the studio host for the Liberty Flames Sports Network football games, and obviously they've got a huge one coming up this Saturday against JMU. It's sold out. However, there are tickets, part of those season ticket packages at InsaneRadioDeals.com, where our listeners can go grab some of those and enjoy the game and others for the Liberty Flames. Battle for the Blue Ridge itself, bigger picture for this game. What is your anticipation of this rivalry and how it seems to have really been embraced by both sides, even though they are not in the same conference?
Yeah, I think this is a rivalry that's been waiting to happen. It's been waiting to just surface. It's always been there. I mean, these two schools are separated by just a couple of hours, and there's no true natural rivalry for either one. Liberty tried it with Coastal Carolina, and that worked for a little while. It's just too completely the dichotomy of the two schools and the success of the athletic programs, I think, allowed that one to flourish and thrive. But now I think in today's day of college athletics, where you don't have regional rivalries and you don't have regional support and pull because of the way things have changed and grown, it's nice to see in the Commonwealth a regional rivalry redevelop and start up. And it's starting on the football field. I expect it to probably spread into basketball and some of these other sports as well. This is what it should be. This is the Richmond VCU. This is the Virginia Tech for Liberty and JMU. It's the most natural regional rivalry. It makes sense. They're two schools that have developed and grown at a relatively consistent pace and kind of coinciding with each other. When one team takes a step above, the other team, the other program matches them and takes another step. And so they're pushing for each other, maybe not directly, but I truly believe that they're growing at a similar pace because they're trying to beat each other. And that's a good, healthy competition off the field that's going to pave the way for what should be a great rivalry series for the next, 10, 15 years. So I'm really excited about these two programs and just being able to see this rivalry grow and develop as the years go on.
Jason Prill, he's at JasPrill19. LYN Hillcats is the Twitter and Instagram for his other job, but we've shifted over to talk about the Liberty Flames as they host JMU this coming Saturday. How much of Liberty's success just starts with, and not saying they're going to win, but they ought to be able to keep this game close if they can just eliminate the self-inflicted mistakes of penalties and turnovers?
Yeah, and the problem has not been necessarily the amount of penalties that have happened. It's been the times in which they have occurred. Turnovers are one thing, and that's something that definitely needs to be cleaned up. But the penalties, Liberty has, at least based upon what I recall from the last couple of games, they've had less penalties and surrendered less yards on penalties than the other teams that they've played. And so it's not the amount of penalties that they've had. It's just the times in which that they've occurred. And yes, they may only be a a 10-yard penalty for holding, but we've had 3 touchdowns called back in the last 2 games because of holding penalties, which has totaled what at that point would be around 21 points and probably 150 yards wiped off the board. And so it's just the timeliness of the penalties. And you talk to football people, and they'll probably say, you hear the old adage that holding happens on every play. But also, there are some times where you need to commit a holding to prevent a bigger loss. And you need to be timely with your holdings and committing those penalties to keep your quarterback from getting rocked. That's not the case in this situation. It's just a lapse, a mental lapse, and it ends up happening at the worst time, week in and week out. I think Liberty should have won the last game against Bowling Green had it not been for penalties, which turned the tide. And so I think this team is a couple plays away, a couple holding penalties away from being undefeated at this point in time, from being or having a winning record at the very least. So I think this team is better than what the record shows. It's just been the timeliness of the mistakes, not the amount of them, that I think has hurt them.
That's a great point from Jason Prill, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats. Jason, we'll wrap it up on this. We got about 30 seconds. Liberty may win, they may not. Do you anticipate they clean enough of that up that fans are treated to a thriller Saturday at Williams Stadium?
I think it's going to be impossible for them not to be treated to a thriller. This is the most hyped game in Liberty history. These two programs are excited for it. They're going to come out firing on all cylinders. I think you're going to see a great football game this Saturday.
We look forward to it as well. The man who does the studio hosting for the Liberty Flames, Jason Prill, with us in the Fast Lane. Jason, exhale a minimal amount since crossover season is wrapped up, but we appreciate your joining us in spite of that here in the Fast Lane.
Absolutely. Anytime, Ed.
Always our pleasure to chat with Jason Prill, play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats, studio host for the Liberty Flames. Meanwhile, our own TJ Wilkerson, who works as a PA announcer for the Hillcats, he will have more on that tomorrow in the Fast Lane. That does it for us today. We're back tomorrow afternoon, 5 to 6 p.m. with TJ right here on the VTRN Sports app. And as that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320